dirt road off a 2-lane past a shot up county sign. Squeaking of a backyard screen door letting you know that it's
The Putnam Personalities podcast exists to highlight the good, the positive, and the inspirational in our community. This episode is not an endorsement of any political or religious ideology. This podcast is a simple interview to get to know our friends, neighbors, leaders, and colleagues on a more personal level. Sit back, grab some sweet tea, and enjoy today's interview.
like home to me.
I met you guys through the school at Interlachen High School. You both are teachers there. And how long have you been teaching?
This is my 9th year teaching and my 2nd year at Interlachen.
Awesome.
This is my 3rd year teaching? Yeah, 3rd year teaching, and all of it's been at Interlachen.
Awesome. Very good. Now, you guys did not go to Interlachen High School. Y'all went
We
to,
went to Penile Academy.
you graduated there.
Yes.
Very good. You went to college.
Yes, I went to Flagler College.
Nice.
I went to Full Sail. Full
Where?
Sail, it's down in Orlando. It's like
Okay.
a art and game design school.
Oh,
I went there, yeah.
So you didn't go straight to the military then?
No. Oh, no, I did. I went straight to the military, and then afterwards
Okay.
I came back home and
Gotcha.
I did that. But yeah, I went to the military for 6 years right after I graduated from Penile. And then eventually, I got my way to college a couple years later.
There's two things that I guess drew me to asking you guys to come on. One is when you walk through the halls of Interlachen High School, at each door there's a little sign that has a teacher's name and it says, "Before I was a Ram, I was." And I started to think at the beginning of the year, that'd be kind of neat to kind of know some of these teachers better because I get to see them a lot, but to know who they are. And the second thing is growing up in a private school, kind of like you guys taught in, we knew everybody. Like we knew our teachers were because we all basically went to church together. We went to school together. We played. Everybody was, the soccer team. You have to try out because if you wanted to play, you had to play. So everybody did whatever. So we knew everybody. But in a larger community or a small community, but a larger school, we don't have that opportunity to get to know our teachers very well and know who they are and what they do and what they've done. And I think it adds value because both of you had actually pretty key, I think, good positions in other types of work. And then to know that you're teaching high school, I think it, I don't know, to me it's kind of cool to know that you have made a role change to invest in your community with these kids. And I think you're doing a good job doing that. So that's why I want to bring you on today and talk about that. So I guess we'll start with Brittany first. We actually had the last interview I did, which hasn't aired yet while this is being recorded, but was with the lady in our community who was on some TV shows in the 80s. You're much younger than that, obviously, but you've done some stuff with TV as well. So tell us a little bit about your background, if you would.
Okay, well, I just wanted to move to New York, and between my junior and senior year of college, I, on a whim, had a friend, ended up subletting her apartment in the city. One of the girls I was working with, her mom worked on TV shows. She was actually the accountant for Gossip Girl. And so kind of through that got connected in doing background work and was like, well, that's fun. These are shows I like to watch, and it helped pay rent and get food. So that's kind of where I started. And then I moved back, finished college, and then I wanted to move back to New York permanently. And I worked for different entrepreneurs as an assistant, a personal assistant, I guess you would say, and still did background work and just wanted to explore that world more, but it was much more difficult than it is seemingly to get an agent and to get jobs that actually pay the bills. A lot can pay you a little bit, but not enough to afford to live.
So you did some script writing for Gossip Girl?
No, I just worked on the show itself.
Okay, you worked on the show itself.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So what does that entail? What do you do?
You're just there for 12 to 14 hours. You go through hair and makeup. You have a 4 to 5 a.m. wake up, a call time, and you're just on set till they tell you to go home.
So when you're on set, so when you say you had to do hair, you
no,
had someone's hair and
I was
makeup?
on the
She's
actual
in the
show.
background.
Yeah.
She's in the background
Background
the back
of
of
the
the
show.
scenes and different things and stuff.
Yeah.
So you might be sitting in the back drinking coffee at a coffee shop or
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
And so you have to go through hair and makeup. I was right next to, I mean, like, my first show I ever worked on was a episode of Law and Order. And like, I walk in and there's Ice-T and, oh, what's the other guy? Oh, who's like the white-haired old guy on Law and Order SVU.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Anyway, and it was just like very like, oh wow, like there's actually like this is a legit show. I don't know, like a legit show and all of that. So it was like a little like starstruck at first. Like we could not interact with them because like it was like your job and like you had very specific things to do, and so yeah, you just work for 12 to 14 hours. And
You got to interact, or you didn't get to interact?
you don't get to interact
with any of the actors or
no.
Really?
Like it is very professional, very much so. Like your phones are away, like you are held, even though you're not, you know, getting paid the millions of dollars.
Right.
There's like still the expectation, like this is not just for fun.
Yeah.
So it was definitely like an eye-opening experience, and you realize like I'm there for 12 to 14 hours, and their day is still going. They were there before we left, like before we got there, and then like they still will be filming after I leave.
Okay.
So it was definitely a lot of, I mean, most actors and actresses at the time were putting in like 16 to 18 hours, and then their call time would be, you know, within the next 12 hours, they'd be back at work, and so.
So what years were you in New York City?
2011 for the summer, 2012 for the summer, and then I lived there from 2014 through 2015.
Now, did you know the Interlachen cheerleaders were at the Macy's parade?
Did not.
I want to say it was 15 or
okay.
16. Yeah, because we
Yeah.
had, I do the Bible studies at the school and also help, across the street from the school, they have football meals for the team every Friday. And so I get to work with the team and the cheerleaders sometimes, give it a Bible devotion or help feeding everything. And they went to the Macy's parade. And so that's the only time I've been to New York City to actually do something. We went as a family to kind of support our team, because we had some of the girls in our church were there. And so we went and we saw the Macy's parade, which is interesting because it's totally not what you see on TV. Like,
Correct.
we're waiting for, like, I mean, we see all the floats, they come down the street, they have to move all the stoplights, they have to like swing them inward, and there's, at the time we went, I guess there was some activity going on, like terrorist activity or threats and things, so they had dump trucks at every street that were loaded with sand so that we could cross the street. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But then all the floats, we saw the Snoopy, all those, we saw those things, but all the shows, they're all down by more or less the Macy's.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. But we waited like, all right, there's 20 minutes left to parade. All right, now it's time to go, because we're like, we wanted to like miss all the traffic getting out of town. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. But we watch it now on TV, and TV's much better, I guess. But being actually in New York City and everything was kind of interesting too. It was really cool. So how'd you guys meet?
Well, we went to school together.
Yeah.
You're two
years
classes
younger.
behind?
Yeah.
2 classes behind me. We both went to Pinal. We both graduated from Pinal. We both went to the Pinal youth group in the church.
Well, and like our
You-
parents went
yeah.
to high school together.
Our parents,
I mean,
yeah, parents
from
went to high school
college.
together. Like, I probably knew who Brittany was. I won't admit this too much, but I know who Brittany was when probably like first year of high school.
Yeah,
Ninth grade.
my first year of high school or yours?
No. Like, I knew
Oh.
my first year.
Okay.
No, maybe sophomore. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
But
Somewhere in there.
even at a small school, we were both like quiet.
Yeah.
And like, because we were in, like, I was in middle school, he was in high school, like we really didn't interact with each other because we were different classes.
We had a
Different.
small community, so like we had a lot of the same friends,
Yeah,
but we didn't really interact that much until later in high school.
yeah.
But
Did you play sports?
Okay, so, no. I was on the Pinal soccer team because it was co-ed.
because we needed everybody to play.
Because, you know, you have to have numbers. I also had, like, I was obsessed with England as a kid. And I, like, somehow convinced my mom I should go to a soccer camp because I thought, you know, it was like the Bentley Beckham era. And she's like, well, if I pay for soccer camp, you have to play soccer your freshman year. Because that was part of it. And I was like, okay, fine. And then I was like, oh, I don't think this is really for me. So after that, I got into keeping the books for all the teams.
Oh,
So
nice.
I've lettered in baseball and basketball, and received a technical foul in basketball, but I've never actually played a game.
Okay, I actually played, believe it or not, I played soccer growing up. My very first soccer game was in 2nd grade. We lived up in Indiana, and the ball was kicked to me, and I picked it up, and I ran as fast as I could for a touchdown. kid you not, in the middle of the game, and everybody's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm just like, "Do-do-do-do," running. I'm excited, and they're all like, "What in the world?" Yeah, it's sad, but that was my first game. But I did play all the way through high school. Now I know you coach soccer or football now, but I did. I played 2 games of football and quit. I hated football. I played 1 game. It was up in Tallahassee against another Christian school. I got hit, and I was like, coach is saying, do this, do that, and all these. I'm like, I have no idea what he's talking about. And I was like, on the way home, I said, this is it. I am done, and never went back again. I hated football. So but obviously you play soccer, or you like soccer.
I love soccer. I grew up playing soccer, and then I actually didn't. I played 1 year of football in middle school. I didn't play in high school. We didn't have a high school team.
Yeah.
I wanted to play high school football, but that would have required me having to like leave Pinal, be homeschooled, and then play for one of the public schools. And my dad, he said, he always told me and my brother we were too small to play football. Although like when I was in 9th grade, I was 6 foot and I was like 205 pounds. Like that is not too small to play football. That's bigger than most of the kids I have now. But really his excuse was he was the AD at the school. He was also the youth pastor at the church that the school ran, and he didn't want me to like leave to be homeschooled to go off. That's really his excuse. So I never got to play football except for the 1 year in Pop Warner. But yeah, I played soccer growing up. I played basketball through high school. Every now and then I would play baseball when my dad paid me to play because I hated it, but I would do it if he gave me a little bit of money.
Build the team,
Because we need everybody.
we need everyone to play.
So like, I played a lot of different things growing up. Yeah, I just love sports. My whole family is very involved with sports.
So now you do some coaching,
Yeah.
and you also are up in the announcement. What do you
So
call
the way the booth works
The booth,
is like the
sorry.
middle part is like the announcement side,
Mhm.
and then like the side is like where the other coaches, like the other team's coaches, and then us, and like we're up there and we're trying to give information to the like the head coach and on down on the field for like play callings, or the defense coordinator for like to help with play calling. So we're like, hey, they have this many people on this side of the field. They have this people. What formations people are lining up in. What we see is going on. Like if you're on the offensive side, I'm telling them like what the defense is doing and how they're lining up to us. So we're like giving them information so that they can make calls. That's what we're doing up in the booth.
Right.
That's how all that works.
Yeah, I learned that because we had a player get injured last year, and I think you were out there we were trying to get the kid transported.
Yes.
Jaquavius?
And yeah, we were trying to figure out what to do, trying to find a parent, and then so she's like, well, my husband, he's in the sound booth or the booth, and I'm like, well, I'll go. Like you said, I'm at the church, I'm making a sound booth. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'll go up there and try. Yeah, it was just a big. I didn't know what was going on. It was the first time I had dealt with that, but and then I realized, all that kind of came into being, and that's how I learned you were a coach. So that's pretty cool. But hey, so before we get way going off track here, but now one of the things I think was interesting to talk to you about was after high school you went to the military.
Yeah.
And so back to the Gossip Girl thing for a minute. So when you say gossip, like gossip usually means somebody tells something, and then by the time it gets back to somebody else, everything's totally different. So I had heard that you were a producer and a writer on Broadway.
Oh.
I had heard that you were an Army Ranger and that you had Osama bin Laden in a headlock. You gave him a noogie. No, I didn't hear all that, but no. But I did hear though that you were a Ranger. So I found out you weren't a script writer. You weren't on Broadway, and you're not an Army Ranger, which is okay. That's cool.
No, it's fine.
But you do have some cool stuff to talk about. So let's talk about that. We realize some things are confidential, and so we can't talk about everything. I get that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about what you did.
I joined right after high school, so I had to wait till I turned 18 because I graduated and didn't turn 18 for a couple months. Went off to Fort Leavenworth, Missouri to go to basic. And then I went to Intel school out in Arizona, and I went there for probably 9 months. I started off as an imagery analyst, which is just kind of a fancy word for someone that in a lot of different ways that we can collect pictures, looks at pictures and depicts depending on what they want out of it. And then after that, I eventually went to my first duty station, which is in Hawaii. I was stationed on Hawaii technically for like 3.5 years. I was really only there for 1.5 because I did 2 deployments with a year in between to Iraq. My first deployment was to Cop Spiker, which is near Tikrit, Iraq, which is like northern Iraq. And I was 19 at the time. And then my second one, I had just turned 21, and we went back a year later, and I went to Baghdad. And so like, I worked in military intelligence the whole time. My first one, I worked in what we call an ACE, which is just like they throw all the intel people into this room, and we got a lot of different things going on. I was at the division level, so we have all the different brigades that are underneath us, and then their companies that are underneath them. They're all sending us to operations, and we're trying to collect as much information in a lot of different ways. So the guys that are on the ground have the best possible information, which sometimes is not great. Sometimes the information we get is not great, sometimes it is. And then I worked specifically on my first deployment with drones. I was working in what's called collection management, and I was working with the scheduling of drones, working with the pilots that were back in Vegas that were flying them, for operations that were happening like on the ground at that moment, making sure they had aerial coverage. So like they could pull up and be like, oh, like there's a guy hiding over on the other side of this building. Like we need to be careful. Or like as they're like convoying here or there, like we can be like, hey, there's a spot on the ground that y'all need to look at that might be an IED. So like we did a lot of that kind of stuff my first deployment. My second deployment, I got thrown into this special group called the Baghdad Fusion Cell, which is where they put a big agglomeration of Army guys, Air Force guys, Navy guys that were all intel in different capacities. And then they gave us an action arm that was a special operations group, and they rotated every like 3 to 5 months. And that Baghdad Fusion Cell had been there since I think 2003. And they just would bring in new people every rotation. So like that place had been there for a while. I came in on the last tour of Iraq before they closed it down. And we were given targets, like you see like when they first went over there, they had the cards, like the ace of spades and all that.
I was gonna ask you, I have a set of those.
We had like those type of people that were like, hey, these are like the main players that we know about, but we don't know where they are. And our goal was to find them in a lot of different ways and bring them in, basically. Because we wanted to bring them in and bring them to this other group of like 2 individuals that were next to us that they would find out more information from, and like that's a very generic way of saying it. But they would find out more information so then we could continue finding more people. That's what I did on my second deployment. Through all that, I had to travel a lot. So my first deployment didn't really go anywhere. Second deployment, I got to see all of Iraq. Because eventually, like, my division took over Baghdad, but as the drawdown happened, like, all the division that was up in northern Baghdad, or northern Iraq, like, left. And we had to assume that. And then the Marines left out west, so then we had to assume that. So now we're in control of northern Iraq, Baghdad, and western Iraq. And then eventually, we ended up having to move our whole base down to Nasiriyah, which is outside of biblical Ur. Like literally my base, and then the ziggurat of Ur was like right outside the gates. We had to move down there because they were convoying everyone out. And then my deployment ended with, we watched over drone footage the last convoy leave Iraq, and we were the last 40 people in the country, and a plane came down, and we got on the plane and we left. We were the last 40 people in Iraq, besides like the embassy, which obviously like stayed up. So yeah, there's a picture that we bring up every now and then. It's from Time Magazine? Or Time?
Yeah, CNN.
It's either CNN or Time, one of the two, but it was like plastered all over like their website. You can go find it now. And it's of like the last soldiers walking up the ramp on this plane in Iraq. And there's a colonel, which was my colonel of my division, and there's me right behind him.
I would have put it up on the screen. I would have known that ahead of time.
Walking up behind him, yeah. And that's something that at like Penile, and I've brought it up a couple times at Interlachen. I was like, all right, guys, see, I was in the Army.
Yeah, that's
like,
really cool.
That's me. But yeah, so that's what I did in the military. And then I came back, I had like a year and a half left, and I was just kind of like just out processing basically. I had the PCS because I ran out of time in Hawaii. I PCS to Warner Robins, and then eventually I got out when I was in Warner Robins. But no, so yeah, I worked in Intel. It's kind of the long and short of it.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking while you're talking, just trying to figure out the dates on everything, because, so I was born in 76, and if I'm not mistaken, did World War II end in 54 or 45?
45.
45, okay.
45.
So 45. So I was thinking 54, but so let's just say that. But so 30 years I mean, literally, Hitler was alive 30 years before I was born. That's just crazy for me to think about that. And then, so as time goes on, so my grandpa, he was a D-Day survivor. So I'm thinking my age when how old he was. I'm thinking, well, so now I'm thinking about you. Some of your students would not even have been alive when
some of
this are going on.
I had a girl that tested the other day, and she wrote down her birthday because she had to like sign in.
Yeah.
And she was born after the year that I enlisted.
Right.
And that's wild.
So that's like, to me, looking back at my grandpa and everything he went through, but
Yeah.
now looking at what you've been through, it's like, that's crazy to think that that was so close.
Last year, I think, was the year that graduated students who were born in 01. Because Rakeem was born in 01. So we had students that, like, they were born when 9/11 happened, but they have no concept
Right,
of
no
it.
concept. All they know is what they
So,
see on TV and
Yeah.
the media.
So, like, that's what, like, most of our students are like.
Whereas like I was in 6th grade, 7th grade? I think I was in 7th.
grade. I was in 5th grade.
I was in 7th grade. I was in 7th grade science test when 9/11 happened. Because I remember sitting, my teacher at Peniel, her son was in the 82nd Airborne. And as soon as it was happening, like we were taking a test and she's like, stop the test. And she's like, a plane just flew into the tower. And I didn't know anything about nuclear. I was like, what tower is she talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
And then she like, another one just flew into it. And then she's like panicking. She's trying to get a hold of her son, like calling, and she can't get a hold of him because they had gone on lockdown. Because the 82nd Airborne, the way they work is like, they could be anywhere in the world in 24 hours. So like they had like called them in immediately, locked them down. She can't get a hold of her son. We're trying to take a science test. But it was like, after that, like me and one of my other friends, we're like, well, we're going to war. You want to go? Like, this is 7th grade, idiot talking. And we're both like, yeah, we're both going to join the military. And then that stuck all the way. We both went. He went in the Air Force, I went in the Army.
And you went to Afghanistan.
He went to Afghanistan.
So, I mean,
Wow.
That's pretty neat. So, okay, so I'm trying to put all the pieces together. So Saddam Hussein.
Yeah. Saddam Hussein.
So were you a part of anything to do with him?
He was gone before I got there.
Right.
I think he was
Now, when
before.
I
Those
did
are the cards I have. I have the
Yeah.
Saddam Hussein card. I
the
have
initial
whole
cards,
pack.
yeah.
Okay.
I did get to see a lot of cool stuff. So I was stationed in Baghdad as what's called the Victory Base Complex, VBC. I was at Camp Liberty. Camp Victory was like across the man-made lake, this giant man-made lake that Saddam made. And we were in like this small building, and then on the other side, Victory was his palace, like his all-fall palace, which like you would see with, like, I mean, they spared no expense when he built that thing. They set up the entire central command for Iraq was in that palace, so we would have to go to meetings there. And they took his big pool that they used to pour perfume in to make the water smell better. Like it was just all offices. They drained all the water out, and it's just all offices in it. Driving over there, you would see like the Ba'athist Party headquarters that had been like bombed out. You would see like one of his son's palaces. It looked really cool. You drive around the backside, the entire backside of the palace is missing out from it being bombed out. There's like tanks on the side where they had set up security. They were bombed out. When I walked into my building that I worked in, if you remember, the Iraqis tore down the statue, like right after he was
Hitting with their shoes.
Yeah, and they're hitting it with their shoes. The hand from that statue was in this big wall that had a bunch of memorabilia from the invasion. The hand of the statue was in there on top of one of his gold-plated AK-47s. So I got to see a lot of really cool stuff. But no, Saddam was before me.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was
My
trying
second deployment is when Bin Laden happened, and because of me being in that specialized group and that like think tank cell that I was in, I had an Air Force, what's called a JTAC, he runs all the radios and communications, and they typically work with Special Operations Group. That's why he was attached with us, because of the people that we were also working with. Well, there's not a lot of them. And his counterpart for Afghanistan that was working in their version of our think tank was where all of the Bin Laden stuff was being ran out of. And they have certain call signs for different people, so you don't actually say their name. So if anyone does somehow get through the encryption, they don't know who you're talking about. His call sign it's known now as Geronimo. And we were working, because we worked 24 hours, we just had shift work, and I was sitting over there by him, and he's like, the guy from Afghanistan just called Geronimo. And we're all like, whoa, because like we knew what that meant. We're like, is he like serious, or like what's going on, or are they like chasing? Because we had like chased down like, or not us, but like the Afghanistan group had been like chasing ghosts for a while, trying to find that, because they knew he was either in the mountains there or most likely in Pakistan somewhere. And he was like, no, like it's real, like they've kept it quiet, and like they were like green lighting an operation, like they were waiting on weather, and they were going. And we're like, okay, so he was able to, because he's communicating with the JTAC, his counterpart over in Afghanistan. He's like, they're like this many minutes out from being at the complex. They're like this far out. Oh, they just went radio silent. We'll find out like in 30 minutes, you know, if they made it there safely or whatever. Or like, oh, they've gotten there, they're safe. They're like on the ground. They're like moving through the building. Like we were able to get kind of play-by-play stuff as the mission was going on, which is like such a huge part, because being the kid in 7th grade science that like the Twin Towers happened with, like, and now like I'm hearing the play-by-play as it's happening of like that, all him being like taken down and everything. It's like probably one of the coolest moments of my life. Like wasn't actually there, wasn't in the room, but like having that connection was a really cool moment. And it was like such a big moment after it was done and it was confirmed. Like we had to go wake up all of our command. We're not even in the same country. We're not in Afghanistan. We're not Iraq. We had to go wake up all of our command, all of our officers, all our generals and everything to like tell them like, hey, they got Geronimo, because it was that big of a deal. So that was like a really cool moment that happened to me when I was deployed. But
You ever had any, ever been fired upon or ever come contact with IED or anything like that personally? Or?
I've gotten lucky most of my life. I've had, so there's not a whole lot I can say about, so in that building, one of the things I did, I can't really talk a whole lot about.
Right.
But it involved me having to like do a little bit of travel and different things. And I've had some close encounters with like rockets being shot at the helicopters I'm traveling with, and was having to like maneuver. I've had instances of literally just sleeping in my chew, which is like, so they basically take like a trailer and they split up into 3 rooms and 2 people in each room. I've had a close call with a rocket hitting the far side, and luckily, so they would cache all the armaments that Saddam built up, and they would store them underground, buried in the dirt, and then they would dig them up when they needed them. Well, being in the dirt for that long like messes them up. Luckily, the rocket that they shot that hit the chew on the far side of my trailer ended up being a dud, but it still blew out all the walls and like threw me on the other side of the room when I was sleeping. I had to go meet somebody one time, and moving towards where we had to go, I got hit in my back plate, got knocked down to the ground. I thought someone like pushed me or like hit me with a sledgehammer or something. At another time when I was actually going to go meet with someone else, and I actually thought I died this time. All I saw was a guy like put an AK-47 around the corner, and luckily like both times I got hit in the plates, both times I'm lucky that it was only like 1 bullet that hit me, because if it's 2, those plates are only good for 1. They're just like basically like ceramic plates. Luckily like 1 hit, and it hit like just on the corner, and where the plate still took it all, knocked me on my back. I'm like looking up at the sky, I'm like, I'm dead, like I'm dying, like I'm bleeding out right now, because that's just how my brain processed everything. And one of the guys I was with like grabbed me, he's like, what are you doing? Like get up, like we gotta get out of here. And
but I'm dead.
I was like, oh, it just broke my plate up. Okay. I'm like, but I've had a lot of close calls.
Do you have the "But Did You Die" bumper sticker on your car?
No.
No. Okay, I was just wondering.
No.
Well, that's pretty cool though. That's
yeah. I've had a lot of close calls, a lot of emotional crap from all that I've had to go through.
So we won't obviously get into detail, but PTSD is a real thing.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that second guess those things and all that, but I know several men that have gone through that, and I believe it's a real thing. So we won't talk about that, but Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So you came home, you guys met, or you guys got married later. Let's just say you're married now. You've been married how long?
4 years.
This is not good. Normally the ladies like
I'm
days,
so bad
months,
with math.
weeks.
We
Well,
also
the
got
thing is,
married
like,
in,
I got out, and then we talked for the longest
I
time.
mean, we were friends all through. I
Yeah.
mean, because we went to high school together, we were friends, and
And we were really close friends all the way up until like one day I just texted her. I was like, "You want to marry?"
I mean that's quite one.
And she was like, "Yeah." So then like we like made plans and
This is
arrangements.
over the
for
phone?
marriage. Yeah, over the
Did you ever, you never had like a down on the knee moment?
No,
Oh,
we
no,
did.
he
No, we
did
did do
actually
that.
propose.
I did
He
like
did.
we did actually go through the
But
full
we
thing,
were-
but like the idea of like
But we were, I don't know, it was weird like being like mid to late 20s, like, oh, like, he's my boyfriend. We were
everyone
just,
always
like,
joked that we were secretly dating because when they would ask us, we were like, "We're not dating."
dating, yeah.
Because I mean, would we go to the movies together? Would we like go hang out or go to dinner together all the time?
Yeah.
Literally most days. Will we go to the gym together? Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, were we dating? No. Like, and that was generally how that
That's what-
conversation went.
That's how we did things, yeah.
Yeah. It.
Have
But
any
we
children?
were both living.
We have one, and then she's due next month.
Yeah.
Okay. There was an obvious, but you never asked that question because sometimes the obvious is not obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do have one. How old? You have a little one?
He is.
He's 19 months now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah,
I did.
we're not great with dates.
Yeah.
That's all right. I didn't even know y'all. I didn't know you had children. I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't really know much. I see you in the hallway and I say hi and I smile. That's the most of our.
Yes.
You
We're
know,
coming up on 5 years.
I know, we're going to 5 years.
That's
yeah.
what it is, yeah. I just have to do the math.
5 years.
Yeah,
That's
5 years.
good.
I had to figure out when COVID was, because we got married in 2019, right before COVID,
And we were actually, we did like a little mini weekend honeymoon in New York.
in February of
February
2020. Like, as they were saying, like, they think COVID's like coming over, and then
And they
it was like
canceled Chinese New
they
Year.
canceled Chinese New Year, and it was like a week after that they were like, oh, someone came back from China in New York and is spreading COVID, and we're like, we were just there.
Yeah, so.
That's
that was-
crazy.
So yeah.